Good evening. I'd like to call the East Cocalico Board of Supervisors meeting for Thursday, November 4th to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask that everyone please check phones, electronic devices, make sure they're either off or in vibrate mode. Thank you. This Board of Supervisors meeting was duly advertised in accordance with the second-class Township Code in the Lancaster newspaper on December 23rd of 2020. I would like to announce that we did hold an executive session. That executive session was held today from 4 p.m. until approximately 6:45 p.m. The items that were discussed were employees, pension, police pension items, and legal with counsel. We had attorney-client privilege discussions. Gentlemen, approval of the past meeting minutes.
We have 3 sets.
So let's do the first one. So October 20th of 2021. That was the special meeting for the budget workshop. Any alterations, changes, corrections?
Nothing from me. No.
I did not have it. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. The motion carries. The second one will be the meeting minutes from Thursday, October 21 Board of Supervisor meeting. Any alterations, additions, corrections to those meeting minutes? I do not have any. Jeff?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Then I will make a motion that we approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, none. The motion carries. Then the final one we have here is the Wednesday, October 27, 2021 special meeting for the budget workshop. Any alterations, corrections, changes in those meeting minutes? I do not have any.
None from me. No.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. So,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving on to action items, land planning engineer. I don't think there's anything. Okay, thanks, Brett. Okay, next item would be the Black Horse project and proposed realignment of Hill Road.
Yep, we're going to be looking tonight to have here with us as we discuss this project or the proposed realignment of Hill Road and those concept plans. We have Brent Lee, our land planning engineer, and John Schick, traffic engineer, and we have Matt Cream and Ed Brown, our solicitors, to help kind of maybe form and frame the discussion, and then we'll put the drawings up and have a good talk. So, Matt?
Thanks, Mike. Members of the board, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm here for the first time in the capacity as a new township solicitor, although I have been representing the township for several years now as counsel to the Traffic Impact Fee Committee. We're looking tonight not so much for you to make any decision, but to give us direction as we move forward on the topic that I'm going to bring up. And by us, I mean your township staff, your engineers, and your lawyers. As you know, there's the possibility that we will be receiving a plan for the redevelopment of what we're all calling the Black Horse property. If that plan is ultimately submitted, it has been suggested by the developer and the developer's consultants that the realignment of Hill Road may be appropriately a part of that plan. That's no surprise to us. The township has had the possibility of some rebuilding, realigning of Hill Road on its mind for as long as we've had traffic impact fees. It's part of our capital improvements plan. So it's a logical topic if that property is to be redeveloped in some fashion. To prepare for the submission of that plan and processing of that plan, we need some direction on what at this point are several variations, and we may develop our own variation on if Hill Road is to be realigned and reconstructed, how would it be realigned and how would it be reconstructed? Obviously, there's going to be some costs connected with that. What those costs are going to be dependent on what the ultimate design is. And the ultimate design may be driven by what the estimated costs are. I would suggest to you that the costs of what we would be doing or what the developer would be doing will be a topic of a future public meeting. At this point, we're looking for some direction so that we can create some choices for you to consider at a future public meeting. So again, just to be clear, we're not asking so much for you to make any decision tonight that would bind us going forward, but to give us some direction on what you would like us to consider in putting together some choices for you.
So we have 3 concept plans that have been received, and we'll call it from the board. The first one here was shown before, was back received in September 1st, was just showing me, it's kind of hard to apologize, they're superimposing it over a photo, but here's the township building here where we're at, and this is coming up through the township property and coming out onto a T intersection here with Pepperidge Farm. John or Fred, is there anything you want to highlight on this or anything that jumps out that you want to identify for transportation in as we go through each of the concepts?
I think when they did their initial layout of this concept, they looked at the stealing of the roadway, the classification of roadway, that's where they came up with the 150-foot radius for the sweeps. So the basis of their layout was pretty much what the standard cross-section of the township ordinance for the roadway is, as well as required right-of-way. Again, this was no defined, it was just more to create an alignment and begin some discussion on the alignment of the road. So that's the layout that's based on what the current ordinance is, the township ordinance for that classification of roadway. So it sets the framework for that.
And that's a 36 cartway, 60-foot right of way.
That's correct.
Well, you maybe highlight on that one. There's versions of all these that can be mixed and matched maybe in some respects, but I think at that point, the discussion, you see it, this cul-de-sac, we'll call it a cul-de-sac at the junction of the new road and Hill Road. And I think at that time, they also identified an emergency connection. So that would essentially have severed all connection in terms of normal day-to-day usage between Hill Road and the Hill Road, the portion towards 272, and the newer section, and only have that as an emergency through a gate or some other mechanism to get through there. So the cul-de-sac would have served as a turnaround for portions of for any activity or use on the portion adjacent to 272, if somebody comes down there, whether it be for plowing or deliveries of any type, kind of way of turning and getting back out.
And again, remember, the realignment really is to divert the traffic from Mill 272 to this location for possibly signalization. So again, the volumes we need to meet the warrants that PennDOT requires that we need for the signal. So without, if you let some traffic filter off that would use the intersection, then it would take away volume. And again, it's somewhat borderline with meeting warrants based on some projections that we've seen early on. It does meet warrants for a signal. So again, that's the real thrust of get the traffic into the signal that location. Remember, the original capital improvement plan that's on record shows Pepperidge relocated opposite of Hill, and the traffic signal was proposed under that scenario. So that's the difference now. Pepperidge is staying where it is, Hill's relocating the opposite.
Okay, so just for clarification, that all the traffic, 100% of that traffic then would actually on Hill Road come through this conceptual roadway to that light then?
That is correct. That is correct. In the way this plan is set up, all traffic then coming on the Hill Road would have to enter at the light.
The light also, right? Because they can't come off, they can't come at that table.
Correct.
The way that is.
Right,
See, the
based
way
on
that
conceptually, on this
on
option
this
here, right?
Right, for option one.
Anything else you want to highlight on there? Maybe go to option 2 and 3, and then we can come around to that.
For a general sense, where that ties into existing Hill Road is at the current drive, most people enter here, so there are issues with that relative to the existing driveway, but we can move forward for that.
And also, I guess the other component of that is the property across the street, any type of connection with that would push that down further towards that sort of low area culvert.
Floodplain zone,
Right.
correct.
Down.
There have been various contacts with the township about opportunities related to the bulk of the property behind the diner. Nothing official at this point, but certainly on numerous occasions there have been various parties. I think long term, it's realistic to expect the likelihood of something happening with that property. So commercial.
So we'll go to, this is, for lack of better, a proposed kind of modification of that one we just saw that we received on the 26th. And it was kind of trying to push the roadway a little bit more closer to the property line where the township owns, and then try to, that would mean that some of this would be coming into 2 adjacent private properties here, and resulting in the potential or need for a potential land swap, the blue here and the yellow up front here. And John, anything from traffic in that roadway still is, I believe, the same, that didn't narrow down that roadway at all, did it change the speed at all, or is that just a way of trying to soften those?
No, I think the idea was really just to minimize the impact to the existing property, to try to force it up close to those other adjacents. Again, they kept it in line with what the existing design speeds would need to be based on ordinance. So again, the cross section is still 36, still 60-foot right away. You can tell it still approaches close to the driveway by the township. So again, it's just it's a modification basically to shift everything closer to 272 to minimize some of the takes in. I think they have it highlighted with possibly where some stormwater or some swaps, just there's some orphan pieces that would be left out there as a result of some of these. And again, it was just an option they looked at. I think they understood, they heard that, trying to minimize the impacts of that property, try to keep it as tight as possible, so that they came back with this potential alternative. And again, those shaded areas show potential land swaps with this adjacent property.
When you say 18-foot carway, may I assume that would be 12 and 6?
That'd be 36 feet wide, curb to curb.
I'm at 8, okay, but each lane would be 12-foot lanes and then
And
6
shoulders.
and 6 shoulders.
We really didn't get into, there was some discussion, is it curved, is it uncurved? That the cartway width doesn't need to be that wide, just, trying to minimize paving. So there was a lot of discussions regarding cross-section width and what's right sizing it. for what's needed. Again, not trying to create a super highway coming through here that's, super elevated curves coming through here that's gonna increase speed. We're gonna try to get some traffic calming in there. So there was a lot of discussion on different elements of design of the roadway. And again, this is, I think they started out with basically saying, hey, here's what your township ordinance is, 36 feet, it's curb around curb, that's our starting point. So again, really didn't drill into a lot of the fine design details of what that would be at this point. So these cases.
But with waivers, those could be modified.
Like has been done on other subdivisions where the starting point is 36 and the board has had a discussion and trying to right-size roadways, whether it be in developments or not. And I think we expressed that the initial portion of this roadway from 272 into the, let's say, the access point for this development needs to be wide and accommodate center turn lanes and opportunities to service both properties, the one being discussed for development, say at the bottom of the page is presented, and future properties to the other side, to the top side. Any project that utilizes 272 and Arterial Road has to do it in a way that helps a long-term access management along the corridor. So we're trying to work with certain applicants at the same time of solving future problems with additional development and provide signalized intersections for you. You may want to touch on, John, some of the complications when you have a double curve and selecting design speed and then cross-section and alignment of the road and when it's appropriate to say super elevate that road like a Daytona, and when it's not, to have a crown configuration.
Yeah, the minimum radius is, and again, when you deal with super elevation, your typical road is crowned like this. So when you go to super elevation, the entire road banks like this. Again, this is an extreme measure. But then you have to come out of that back and forth, and you really have those back-to-backs to go from a super elevation back to a normal crown to super elevation out of way. There's certain criteria, distances you need between those. So again, it's really a tight fit here. I think that's, trying to look at that. So there would, even with the back-to-backs, I believe they would need some sort of waivers of design criteria to make that work. And again, the more you bank it, the higher your speeds are. So you want to look at traffic calming. As Brent indicated, that internal first section there, again, full width, allow for turning lanes. Took a step back from the 2,000-foot level, looking at the adjacent properties at some point. That corner property comes in, PennDOT's probably not going to give them the direct access on the 272. They're going to make you come out on the hill or come out onto this access. And again, access to the signal, that's what your ordinances promote, access management, backside parallel routes, bring everybody out to the signal. So again, making sure to throw it out is long enough that driveways are set back far enough, you have enough room for future turn lanes in and out any type of driveway there. And again, like so behind the ZINs back there, some sort of potential access coming into that location. You want to be able to funnel all that traffic out to the light just for purposes of safety.
Key difference here on this one, besides just the calming of the curves, is really now we're affecting two other property owners. That's really the key difference.
We're still in the same situation on the existing Hill Road now, that won't go all the way through, it comes into a cul-de-sac. And some of the other items that we've talked about, at least as we looked at some of these concept plans, is how do we incorporate some kind of multimodal component into it. We have the Heatherwood development down below, we have a potential development that may be a job source, we have other things there. Is there a way of being able to then link people either on bicycle or trail system, sidewalk, to take advantage of this potential new area in the township? And the third one is here. This was one received by the township on Friday. It kind of has a different orientation based on some preliminary discussions and ideas about trying to increase connectivity and maybe reduce roadway and kind of also see what other opportunities are to use the existing Hill Road. And do you want to kind of good formula here? Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Other this plan, again, trying to focus on minimizing impact to the township property while still maintaining proper access, to the development and adjacent properties. Yeah, when we started looking at some traffic, and I guess the more we looked at these concepts, the more conversations we had, I guess some good conversations of what we're trying to accomplish here. And with this plan here, this basically creates a T intersection. And again, it's still gonna divert all the traffic coming from Hill to 272 to come out to the light. The section of Hill, if you're coming, you would all have to turn right. We would still allow people coming south on 272 to make a right turn, to go Hill, come up to the stop sign, this T intersection, and continue straight. So it's gonna bleed off those right turns rather than forcing them to come down to the signal and circumvent their way back through the intersection. So it helps capacity-wise, just, again, that's people are coming from the north, they wanna make a right turn, shortest distance.
But no left turn from the south.
That's correct.
I think the plan currently labels that that's a possibility, but that would have to have further discussion.
Yeah, that would be further discussion. So really, this plan was to allow right turns, to still have full access on between the new intersection and 272 for any adjacent properties.
So, here's a question, that's the right in, right out, as I call it, right? On Hill.
To be determined if it's a right in, right out. I think you'd still maybe allow lefts there, the volumes are much lower.
So here's my question, Joe, just from a high level view, understanding. The right in, right out off of Hill Road, the way the concept is there, okay? Does that then create a pinch point or any kind of problem, you think, where the new road is and Hill Road is by our building?
No,
Because the cars are coming down that hill then?
really, there's no change. I mean, they're showing a smaller radius. I would anticipate that radius making the right turn. It would be a continuous move, and probably a 50 to 75-foot radius. It's not a sweeping turn, but it's not coming up and having to stop to make a right turn. So it's going to allow traffic to flow because you can only go right. You can't go straight at that particular location. So it's going to allow it to continue to flow somewhat, free flow, and then all the way out to the signal.
Maybe you want to highlight that it allows some different opportunities, traffic calming and design criteria by kind of identifying a separate roadway segment.
It helps because when we look at the design of the back-to-back curves, it's basically you're looking at the entire segment. And for that roadway for 35 mile an hour, the design criteria is much higher. This would become a separate segment, not necessarily Hill Road, or hillside, whatever you want to call it. It would be a different roadway, and the design speed of this could be 25, so we can get away with a much tighter radius around the property corner. We can get away with a tighter cross-section because it's going to be considered more of a local road more than a collector roadway. So it kind of works with our favor that this is a separate section, it's not still Hill Road, so the design criteria could be a lower level, lower classification for the ordinance. So it helps us definitely from a speed limit point of view. We want traffic calming, we don't want people driving through here fast. You're going to have driveways, depending on the development, trucks pulling out, you have a lot of activity going on the section of roadway. So you don't want to have free-flowing, large radii, super elevated roadways come through here. So it actually works in favor to have a reduced speed limit, and you can still maintain the same speed limit and everything on Hill Road that you presently have. So it does create a separation, which is a benefit. It does get it tighter, as you can tell, to the property line. It doesn't really impact the driveways into the township building. As you get further, there's floodplain issues over there, and it creates pretty much a standard intersection. And also for a future leg that would be directly opposite. So again, that 2,000-foot level, trying to determine in the future, if you need to connect and make a fourth leg to the intersection, you'd be able to create the fourth leg there. It gives opportunity for the other two tracks on the corner, have access out onto the backside or even opposite of most likely the driveway that's furthest back from 272, and access onto that connector road. But it sets up nice for future development. It sets up nice because it's a lower speed roadway, a little tighter cross section. And again, we really get into if it's curbing, if it's shoulder, again, sidewalk, path system. I mean, it's a lot of designers to talk about. We're just trying to work through and come up with something that everybody can concur with is a good alternative.
One of the parts of this, I think if you zoom in to some of, I think they did label different lane widths and cross sections as.
Yeah, the intersection, they actually provided additional detail on this, which was nice. The other ones didn't really. So even if you go out the.
Yeah, I think that is a 24-foot
Yeah.
carway with, 3-foot paved shoulder on either side.
Once again, reduces stormwater impacts, no curbing, natural swales. Again, so it's looking at cost versus what's effectiveness and long-term maintenance for the township.
But as you see there, I want to comment that this concept, as a red up there, the right does say right in, left.
Left hand,
So, the types of maneuvers or movements that could be accommodated there, we could go have further discussions, but
right.
And are there any other, like, I know, just in our discussions about some other potential, we're looking at a concept here, or 3 different concepts, but other components concerning stormwater, land development, that obviously will need to be looked at. I mean, they're not really spelled out on this end anyway, it's just really more looking at conceptual layout of what could possibly happen.
yeah, we have to start at some point, and I think that's what the intent here was to kind of start with big questions, dealing with alignment, basic alignment, intersection configurations, servicing different properties, then start working on width, and then from there you go to other aspects as to which portions would be curved and uncurved. That drives stormwater, so then you go on to grading and vertical alignment of that roadway and the intersections, and see how much earth moving is associated, and then determines how you deal with storm drainage, whether portions of this would be handled internally through the future development. Other portions may not, and would have to be dealt with separately, but curbing would drive additional inlets and piping. Other opportunities for uncurved sections would be more swale and crossing. So then you get into lighting and street lighting and others. So there's so many different determinations before somebody can really say costs and what we're agreeing to. We'll eventually need to get to a point where everybody's giving a nod to not only the alignment, but general key aspects, key design criteria associated with that. So everybody later on, when the details are laid out, that it's not, I didn't understand you were going to ask for that. Or I didn't understand when we're building it, we're building it to this standard. Things like common or base drain. We have wet soils in various areas, typical cross-section would include base drain. So it's relatively easy once we get past this to highlight other things and then have an honest discussion with anybody participating in the cost, so that there isn't surprisingly more person they say, why didn't we talk about that? Why didn't we think about that? Why is that coming up now? And why is it disrupting our initial thoughts on the costs, and sharing the costs, or working together towards things?
So the first 2 options, the way I'm looking at this personally is, the first 2 options from a historical perspective of someone traveling on Hill Road, it completely changes the historical driving pattern of what they're used to. Is that fair to say? Because then they're coming to Road X, the new road that comes out. The third one we just looked at, up here on the computer, right? So the third one, the Hill Road right in, right out off of 272, you're not changing that much of the historical driving pattern for the people coming up Hill Road.
If you look, the right out is blocked at the
Yeah, you would not, if you're coming,
So it's
if you're coming from Hill, all that traffic has to be diverted to the signal. So there's only traffic turning off at 272 that would have access to Hill.
oh, I see that, okay, I see the red light.
Yeah,
down to the
Yes.
And any other properties.
And any property on the segment. Yeah, the design and the decision on exactly how to design that gap or that separation, how long that would look like, whether
Pavements are
Pavement.
removed, yeah, I mean, that's,
move, markings, all kinds of, that can be determined.
yeah, that's.
That would,
But this third option gives us the best ability from a safety perspective in terms of the speed of the road.
Most definitely.
Yeah, as I said, you're not starting with a blank canvas for this, when you can do everything perfect, somebody's painted some of it already, and they're trying to decide from there how to make the best of it, while still anticipating future development, and how it would relate into this.
The way I look at this is it's, if you're going to work and you live off a hill road or use Hill Road as a commuter road, you'll have to come and turn on to New Road to go out to traffic light. The first two examples with the curves, you just continue your trip on Hill Road and New Road. You don't stop, you don't turn. You're coming back in off of 272 with that curve there. You don't stop at Hill Road. You just hit the curve and keep on going on Hill Road. I see that as basically the same as your route now, where you don't stop until you get to 272. So with those first two examples, they have a cul-de-sac there and dead end the road. Is there a combination, John, where you could still be able to ride in on Hill Road and get on and still have that curve there at Hill Road where people coming from the other way don't have to stop and turn?
There was discussion, and I don't think there was no pen to the paper, but again, taking Hill, realigning into a 90 in the middle of one of those curves. So you would basically have on the midpoint of that curve, bring in an intersection at that point to make that move, but then that would be a stop. Now, under the third option, these are just options that are thrown out there. You would still be able to proceed north on 272, turn onto an existing hill, and go straight. You would still, that, depending if that would become a multi-way stop where you would have to stop in that direction, or that would have free flow, but most likely the intersection of the new leg would be the stop approach. So technically, you could go up the hill, turn left, and continue uphill that way. Or you could turn at the light, come through the new road, come to the stop sign, and then turn left. Come the other way, you'll still have free flow. You will not stop as you come down, you'll make the right turn, that's free flow, and then you'll come out to the signal. That's still a free flow movement until you get to the signal. There'll be no stop coming that direction, because there's nothing opposing, no conflicting movements coming the other way.
And that's where John was saying earlier, and as you were alluding to, as I said initially, mix and match. There are ways to mix and match different components of all these, but the free flow coming from Hill Road towards 272, that radius can be designed in different ways and expanded to improve the level of comfort and convenience of making it, and trying to also recognize, though, you're kind of transitioning from a more rural sense of the road to an area where you'll be quickly in the midst of more activity, multiple higher volume driveways, especially when both properties on either side are developed. That is a commercial undeveloped property at this point, and once a signalized intersection, it's a prime opportunity. And those driveways will align with these others. So you'll have a center turn lane. You will want to drive differently through that portion of the road than you would in front of the township building currently.
You could have a radius similar as you're getting off Colonel Howard Boulevard, you go north on 272, sweep like that. So yeah, it could be anywhere from 40 to 60 feet. You can create, we put a pork chop island in there to kind of show channelization, just to emphasize that's the movement. Again, there's other ways to come up with features for that, but again, your typical intersection is 25, 30 feet on a radius. You almost got to slow down to make that turn. I think we want to make this large enough, keep it moving, but not too large to have it going too fast or too tight. People come up and feel they have to stop, and really slow down to make that turn. I think you got to find the sweet spot of, what's the right radius from transitioning from hill to this new route that allows that traffic comfort to continue moving. And again, to slow it down, you want some calming as you come in there. You want you barrel in there, and then all of a sudden the next time one of the slows are entering into this route. So it's kind of the twofold.
I just, again, I look at it as an opportunity that if there's a way of not making people stop on their trip, you know, is that the best way to go? I don't. If you're coming back in off 272.
Anywhere we introduce a leg, one of those legs are gonna have to stop.
Yeah, okay.
So it's, if you tee that in there, and again, there was discussion of, you know, the police also throughout, having a quick access to that 272. I think with the signal, you have opportunities for preemption, there could be preemptive devices set up, detectors back around the curve, so as the police are pulling out and have the preemption on there, you can, again, begin to clear out the light, that, they don't have to worry about stopping at the light when they get up there, so they can clear out further back. So there's an opportunity with the equipment you have to be able to do it too. But again, that was a concern we heard of, right now, police have a direct line, you got 272 now, if they have to come down to the light, does that going to increase their time or response time? So again, that's something we can take care of, at least with the signalization and equipment that's out there.
And the radius in the curve helps them
Helps to
get around there quicker and up to the light.
Yeah, I don't think you want it so large that people are flying down. You want it to slow down. So I think that you don't want it so tight such that people come down, feel they need to stop, and they can turn. You want to make it look like that's your direction, that's the continuation of the road, not the focus moving forward straight.
Something in between.
Right, exactly.
And I think one of the prior options, the section had an inset on the bottom that better revealed where that roadway is relative to the down bottom left. Where that roadway is relative to the township building, and
Road cuts.
yes, it would likely require a reconfiguration of the access point to the township, and possibly to option the new road in a different area. The lower drive here is adjacent to the flow lane, so you want to maintain both 2 points of access to the building. So it's just helpful when you zero in on that one to really see what that means.
And the something in between kind of leaves what's here alone and goes up above it.
Right, I think that was, one of our goals was to try to minimize impact to your property and your land, and again, cost is a function too, so again, with the road, partway with, how far out you're expanding this, it's still trying to maintain the adequate access, from all points, and I think the third option kind of, there's a little give and a little take here, so it's, it's still gonna maintain access to the adjacent properties, it still gives you the ability to turn right for 272 to continue, so really, you're only impacting people coming north, turning left, if they don't want to turn at the light, they have the option, they can go up the hill and they can turn left, there's a left turn lane there. That turn lane is not gonna need to be increased, the southbound left turn lane in Pepperidge isn't a heavy maneuver, so it's not like those left turns are gonna create issues that one's gonna be shorter and someone's not gonna be able to sit in the turn lane. If they wanna come up and sit in the light, they're comfortable turning at the light with the arrow, so be it, so at least you use two options.
Yeah, from a scale perspective, Craig and I were just saying, is that the other
Number
option?
two.
Number two, give you a perspective scale wise, it looks like it comes right to the police sign. Where we put the sign from the police department. Yeah.
What's the sign for the whole town?
No, on the other side, could be right by the R on the cross.
Yeah, this is the township sign here, right there.
Right, and then you have the police sign down there. Right there's about the police.
And on that one, if that cul-de-sac goes away, that curve could be moved up a little bit, is what you're saying. On a right in only at 272, that cul-de-sac would go away.
That version, that's kind of controlled by the radiuses, and you have to tighten radiuses, and that's where the concern is. If you tighten radiuses on a continuation of hill, you're kind of
Get back to a T intersection almost, because you don't want to really create a slip ramp basically on there, because your sight line, when you come up here, you gotta look over the back of your shoulder, and again, you got somebody coming up there, they're most likely they're gonna be stopped. So when they come up and really look back over their shoulder, it's a hard angle. So again, that's the reason to try to bring it in 90 degree in the middle of that arc, and then basically where those arrows are is where you would bring it in, and then you'd have a stop condition, and again, create that. And you don't like to really create intersections on curves. You know, it just, you know, and somebody coming down there would maybe think that they can turn left there, and, yeah, I think it was a proper design and controls of the T intersection. You wanna make it a little physically that you can't make that maneuver. You can put all the do not enter, no left turn signs there, but you have to make it narrow enough to come up there. Again, you just don't like to bring a leg out in the middle of a curve, it's just not good. And if you try to do some sort of slip to keep it parallel with the existing line, when you got hard sight lines, you're trying to go back, and again, people don't always respect if it's a stop, they may just kind of cruise right through there, like a yield sign, so you try to be careful, you want to get maximized, you want people to stop, be able to see it, again, you try not to be on the curve. When you're building something new like this, you know, you have the opportunity to fix something to make it right, rather than create additional issues.
And I think there is kind of a common sense thought that you're designing a new road, keep it free flowing, but that's where all these other layers come in, considering access to adjacent properties, design constraints relative to free flowing, and are you transitioning from one type of roadway to another, another driving experience, and should it be designed differently, and should you then design that transition? So that's where it makes it much more complicated to sort through all those and say, what's the best?
And again, the applicant, he's concerned about his access and his parcel. So, you know, they're looking towards the township to determine, what do you guys want, what's the best for you? So they kind of made some offers or some things based on what the ordinance, and that was kind of the starting point, and, you know, work back through some conversations to get to where we were, option 3. So, you know, they understand what they need to do on their front to serve their site, but, you know, for them to figure out what's happening in the back, they listened to us, they took back what we talked about, and came back to this plan, so it's.
And I think the prior plan you had up shows that the second point of access into the proposed development starts to be in proximity of the curb,
Right.
which adds some complexities to it.
Yeah, I mean, with speeds, it's just, you know, if you have a type of use there, and I'm not sure their circulation pattern, if it was a counterclockwise coming in at that
It was
driveway,
coming in at that driveway.
and then out at the other. So again, if you've got trucks turning left in, you got curvature, you got some grading challenges there, so sight lines is, you know, the whole idea of slowing traffic down is paramount, I think. Like, you know, naturally designed as with tighter radiuses, lower speed limits, and you're gonna gain that. So again, you don't want high speed traffic, they can come up to the light, if you're coming around that bend, next thing you know, the cars are stacked, you know, you just wanna keep it as slow as possible come through it.
And once you establish the access points to the property to the bottom of the page, this proposed development, that establishes the access points to the development to the north. So not only when we look at that, we see the driveways coming down, we're envisioning future driveways going the other direction. And so when you look at the curve and how it affects that other potential access point there, it raises concerns too.
I think you start out with a Sharpie line, just drawing Sharpie connecting points, and we got to this and finally, so.
There's a question in the back of the room. Yes, sir.
A couple
I'm sorry,
things,
name?
Donnie Stowe. A couple things just questions I had on this one here. If you're gonna allow, you're gonna allow access to the Hill Road entrance of Park Place Restaurant? If people are still gonna go, if they have access to that entrance of Park Place, instead of coming all the way out here to make a left-hand turn, how many of those people are gonna start going through Park Place to make the left-hand turn?
They would.
Because if you're not forcing them out, if you go to the slope, you're forcing them away from that entrance, that they will have to use the light to make a left. I'm just concerned that now all of a sudden you're running traffic. They're not supposed to, but people are gonna take the shortcut and cut through Park Place. Now you have endangering the customers of Park Place Restaurant.
If I'm understanding, if you're talking about traffic coming from this view from the left or the township building side and coming towards 272, they would not have the opportunity to continue on and access any of the drives into the diner. They would be forced to go right on the new road.
At this one.
Yes, it's not shown real clear, but that's what the, if you zoomed in.
Here it looks like it's just,
Yep,
that's what I was.
yeah, so, you know, And that's what you were saying, the exact, that's what
Yeah,
that's intended to represent.
From back here, the way it was, you couldn't see that, it looked like it was, you know, and that's what I was unsure of how you were gonna get, but I get it. So nobody on Hill Road has access to the backside of Park Place.
And again, the reason is we need that traffic diverted in order to meet the enforcement signal. So if we start allowing any traffic to come there, that, you know, people are gonna continue to use that. And again, that's the purpose really, is to improve the safety of the intersection with the signal.
Then why would you have to put a stop sign at that intersection then?
Coming,
If you're coming up the new road,
yeah,
you would stop because traffic could come from the right. So you could have traffic still coming south on 272 or north that would turn, that would still be able to continue on Hill. They would have their free flow movement.
And they'd still be able to make a left-hand turn on Hill, on this whole Hill Road from 272 as well.
Yeah, so they can even make a turn from Hill onto the new road to come that way too. So if somebody's pulling out of the diner and they don't want to make a turn, they actually have the ability.
And what happens in the winter with the snow and the ice? With a stop sign? What's gonna happen with accidents on Hill Road?
I'm sorry, name?
Kathleen O'Connell.
Thank you.
We have no.
It's not gonna be any different than this. The stop is gonna be able to do approach. Hill does not stop in either direction, so.
You said something earlier about you want more traffic there to help the state approve a light faster or whatever. But if you allow people to still access that part of Hill Road to go down, you're cutting down your traffic going downhill, going to the new, coming and using the new access road to come down Hill Road. So could that affect your status of getting a light?
Let's try to understand what.
yeah, I think your point was if you're coming, say, from Weaver's Market south on 272.
Well, that I get, the right in.
The right in.
But can you make a left-hand turn if you're coming from, instead of turning at the light, can you come up the Hill Road and make a left?
Yes.
So,
when you look at the volumes for what PennDOT looks at for signal warnings, there's plenty of volume on 272, so it's not a problem with volumes on 272.
it's the Hill Road,
It's the side street approach, correct.
But so it's the coming from Smokestown Road up through.
Correct, it's the approaching volume, not necessarily the volume going the other way, so
Okay,
it's always approaching.
I wasn't sure how that.
And again, the signal creates gaps for people to come on, so that's the reason why.
And me personally, when we come up through here with a 68,000-pound fire truck, I'd rather have one of the first two options where we just make that slow bend instead of coming up here and making a harder turn, just my opinion.
Thank you.
Those turns are gonna happen for fire.
Correct, and again, that radius is set up based on the standard of what the township requires.
Don't bother asking me. Yes.
I guess one of my observations would be that number 2 is probably my least favorite of the 3. If there would be some taking of property necessary, when you throw in the word necessary, things tend to go up in price. And I don't desire to take things by eminent domain. I'm not big on that, okay? And you're talking about, and then with all those planter trees on I'll call it the inside of that curve, buffer planting they call it. As you come from Hill Road toward 272, if there is some stacking there, if there's an incident there, you've now made that a blind curve. You can't see what's occurring of the intersection, so that you have buffer plan.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the buffer plan. They may have put those on there just as a demonstration of what could be done. To your concern, any new road, any sightline for any curve, that's part of the reason the radiuses had to be the size they had to be, because they're based on the speed and the ability to control your sightline and maintain it within the right of way. So any design is gonna ensure that every point of sightline around a curve you have adequate sight distance to react to anything, something on the road or stacked traffic or anybody pulling out. So,
Horizontally and vertically, so that's.
yeah.
Thank you.
And I don't think we, as far as the other properties being involved, I don't know that we need to get too much detail. I understand the concern, obviously involving any property, anybody's property. I think you do have to counter that with, these are commercial properties are valued based on the, many times based on the ability to access them safely through signalized intersections and maximize vehicular trips in the vicinity. So the one option shows a swap there, which actually provides what could be considered more prime real estate directly adjacent to the intersection, which is currently controlled by the developer.
Right.
So, and the other one involves a small triangular portion, and there may be ways to offset that comparably with land area. So, yes, it's a huge concern. Anytime you show something graphically that involves more than property that
Is under your
under your immediate control. But it's also, we felt improper to plan around everything and assume that that's not a possibility, and then find out that, oh yeah, all you need to do is try it. So, and I think if you go back far enough to when this original concept of dealing with Hill Road and altering the CIP capital improvement project that's previously identified, possibly with another Black Horse alternative development style, it was almost two 90-degree intersections, just as a starting point to even identify something. And so I think we're trying to build upon that and see what really makes sense, and that's interesting challenges.
I guess to Donnie's point about, access on the old portion of Hill Road, when you get up near 272 there, being that you have a change of use of that road, do we have ability to say the entrance there to the diner or something can go away because of change of use of the road, or is that not an option?
So the first question would be, is it a permitted access or not? If they have a permit, the answer is probably not. If they don't have a permit, if it's just that old, that it's always been there and a permit has never been issued, then we may have more discretion on closing it.
I guess overall, there still would be multiple access points on 272 for them, but this would help limit the traffic out onto the old Hill Road, which we're trying to discourage, basically.
Something to explore.
You would, I think, also have the opportunity to have a discussion with that property owner if and when they did anything, whether it's subdivide the rear portion of the property, or if there's actually another property at the corner at the time,
Yeah.
smaller property, so there's actually another parcel there. So if there's ever a combination of properties there, and anytime there's a change there, that would be where the township definitely has an opportunity to have that further discussion in terms of overall access management.
That could actually be the other property's access.
Right.
But I think it is.
The,
Share.
And really the full answer to your question is, we could probably close that access if we think it's absolutely necessary. Then the evaluation is it a taking or not?
Based on your total impact.
Right, and whether it's permitted or not, et cetera. As Brent said, much better if that property has been brought into a land use procedure to look at it overall, to adjust accesses to a different point.
Yeah, there's actually two there, though,
Yeah.
so which one goes
Right.
on which,
Right.
to be discovered.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies. I'll beg to differ with Craig there on number 2. As far as the larger vehicles, the tractor trailers and stuff, a nice sweeping turn rather than the third one with stop signs. As far as having to stop and turn, poles, and then I'm just thinking here what we've been running into over at Wabash, Stevens, with it now, there's 2 hill roads, and the GPS is telling these drivers, go to Hill Road. They turned down the first one at Barn, and now they're stuck, they gotta back out or something. That's the way I'm looking at it, but, and just the ease of snow plowing with a nice radius there,
The radius, that particular radius wasn't my concern as much as
the buffer.
buffer trees that I thought hid
Okay.
from traffic coming up to 272, hid what was happening at the intersection or close to the intersection.
Right.
With any kind of stacking in the queuing lane or whatever. And yes, I'm not big on eminent domain.
Yeah. That's why I said I agree to disagree. Thank you.
Thank you. Thoughts, Jeff? Mike, in terms of guidance from us, you're looking for,
We're trying to get some general direction from the board, so as these discussions continue, we're able to kind of hash out and maybe get closer to, as Brian mentioned, kind of beginning to look at some of the other items. Once you get this sort of part laid out, then you can start to focus on some of those other questions that may come up. But, we have 3 different concepts right now. 2 are slightly similar, one's a bit different in regard to how traffic flows. They're not set in stone with where they are, there's a little bit of movement that happened, but I think they're different in regard to whether you're stopping and going through or whether you're going to slow through, and what that impact could be not only on the township property, the existing Hill Road, and any neighboring properties. So looking for some general direction as we kind of continue along these planning efforts. We know that we're moving in the way that the board is hoping to get accomplished. And Chief, do the vehicles have preemption devices? No, just fire trucks do?
I mean, that can change.
should change.
For it.
It should change. Should they have them?
Sure.
Absolutely. It's less than $1,000 a vehicle.
It's a big difference. Yes, a big difference. Table that one for new business.
So your light bars have them built into it, or?
We can add the preemption to it. When we're talking about new cars for next year, he asked if we had it, and I said, no, I mean, we could change the 2 new ones in a phone call, right? It would be the other ones outfitted.
So, John and Brett, let me ask you this. I think what I heard in the tone of your voices was, we're looking at option, I call it 3. Okay, so that would be the next one. That one is what I'm looking at here. I think what I'm hearing is from a flexibility of design. Does this one provide the most flexibility?
Yes, I mean, I'm looking from a traffic point of view, I'm looking for land use and access point of view, looking at land impacts, minimizing property takes. I think the idea of traffic calming, slowing it. And again, it wouldn't be called a hill road, it would probably have a different name, so GPS isn't one be confused, so hill would still remain, that's what I'm saying, hill would remain open if you're on 272 and you're making the left or right, that you could still proceed on hill that way. Wouldn't necessarily take you this way. Again, that movement would be a free flow. Either direction of hill is always gonna be a free flow. The only stop is gonna be the new approach coming up. And again, with the design for, design for a 67 for a fire truck, just like any other development in the township, those intersections will all have to be designed accordingly. There's some flexibility in the design, the radius coming around, you don't want to make it too large, it becomes a higher speed, but you don't want to make it too small, it becomes a stop. I think this provides longer tangent sections, you're not dealing with super elevation, so you're dealing with a normal crown roadway. You can put those in, and the layout of the driveways, again, their driveways are set back far enough because any cueing from the signal wouldn't have that driveway back far enough, and that's going to dictate how far that driveway needs to go back. So the location of their driveway is pretty much sets on the other side of what's going to happen. So you're not in a curve, you're on a tangent section, you're going to have good sight lines through the curve. Even come out the backside there, we have an access, potential access point there if you want to work with. So it creates a lot of opportunity for future connections that you're looking at. And again, on Hill, it doesn't really change the character of Hill from the new section 9. Folks there on those parcels, they can continue to use Hill as it is now. They can right or left turn out from there, they can right, left turn in. It's really just redirecting the traffic coming, to 272. They're all going to be channelized or forced to come out of the signal.
Personally, for me, I think, looking at the designs, I think that's a design that, at this point in time, conceptually makes the most sense.
Yeah, for me as well, just a bit more of a radius onto it off of Hill Road. Not such a hard, just a little bit more feathering there. But I'll go back to the left turn off of 272 onto Hill Road. I mean, are we still looking at a hazardous situation there by allowing that to continue?
That's, again, Hill Road is your road. You have the option if you want to restrict that movement. You have the ability now to then make it at the signal. Most likely it's going to have a flashing yellow arrow, so it's going to have some sort of protected face for folks to turn. So if it's a safety concern, if there's a lot, I don't know what the crash data looks like there's a lot of angles of people turning left from 272 on the hill. Again, there's, you're fighting for gaps as people come down, so it's kind of shooting gaps in this way, you bring them down to the light, it allows them to safely maneuver. It can be designed such that when they look at their turn lane lens, it assumes all left turns are going to occur there. So the left turn lane is long enough. If you decide at some point, that's an issue, you want to eliminate the lefts there, it's almost, you kind of build a pork chop island or something there to just, eliminates those people from making a turn in, it's only a right turn in. And again, that could impact those other parcels. As Brent indicated, if something comes in on the other parcels, you want to, eliminate some of their access points on the 272, now you go, well, where are they going to turn left? You're going to bring them in the hill, there is a turn lane, or, create something that there's an access further up there. So you want to try to centralize your movements at the intersections themselves. So it's kind of, again, it's the 2,000-foot level. When you start looking in the future, what could happen here, is that going to change how that intersection should operate? But you always have the option that if you want to restrict the left, you have the ability to let them use the lane.
That's probably a decision a little further down the road anyway.
But, once traffic patterns get established, and, who knows on these other corners what happens, and, even the development of those corners, they're not going to get a driveway on 272, so they're going to have to turn into the light or go out, turn left and come in. So, a developer comes in, they want access everywhere. They want full access everywhere. So they're going to fight to show that, why that can still work. So it's your road, you have the ability to do what you want. Again, PennDOT has indicated they're living up to the township pretty much of how we handle this coming through here. They're concerned with the access and the entrance opposite of Pepperidge, how that's going to function. But again, the function of Hill, it's more of a township decision since it's your road.
I would also say, like John said, with that potential concern in mind, you design the signal intersection to accommodate all of those in the left, stacked in the left turn lane to the south. So you prepare for that so that turn lane is appropriately identified, but you'd also have the opportunity when and if that property is developed, all frontage improvements will be discussed at that time as part of that development, and if they're not part of this project, that's certainly not a heavy lift for that project to address any concerns you may have, and it may be eliminating all access to Hill Road as part of the development of that, drive all trips here, and then modify the left turn if you want.
John, does the program we sat through today, the scoping meeting with PennDOT for the adjacent development or potential development on Colonel Howard Boulevard, and there was a discussion about trying to incorporate some of those numbers into this adjacent development study. Does that improve what we're looking to do? Does that, number-wise, in regard to the intersection and the light and all that, does it cause any, do you foresee any headaches or anything that may cause an issue with this design based off of those numbers coming in?
No, and that's kind of why I made the comment I did, because again, it's just basically got through volume on 272. There's more than enough volume on 272 when a signal goes in, that's gonna be the main phase. So adding the development traffic from the Benderson piece of what we're talking about, that traffic on here. What happened was, when this project came in for the scoping meeting for PennDOT, there was nothing officially at the township for Cocalico Commons at that time. So we couldn't tell them to include that in their background traffic. We had the scoping meeting today for the Benderson Cocalico Commons project. And one of the discussions, they were asking them to look at this particular intersection here. We said, well, it doesn't really make sense. It would make more sense if Benderson gives the traffic, TPD doing the traffic for both of them, just walk across the hall, get the numbers, and plug them into their traffic model here. We want to make sure that the traffic is included in this intersection by somebody. And it makes sense if these guys are going to look at this intersection, it's a worst case scenario, that they put the volumes in. It's not going to change anything, it's really through volumes. It doesn't impact traffic coming from Hill, because again, it's high percentage pass-by, so it's not going to add traffic to the side streets. So at the end of the day, it's not going to create any issue. It's just a matter of having that traffic in one study or the other. We want to make sure that, we're looking at all these developments. There's 5 or so developments in the area that are all contributing on the section 272. So each study is taking all that information, put it in their studies and evaluated. So this was the missing link, but again, just in the order they came in, we couldn't make them do that. So it's now we talked, and their counsel is going to check with their client to see if they'd be willing to do that. Which, again, she couldn't speak on their behalf, but they don't think it'd be an issue.
Any other questions?
Well, I would struggle to spend this kind of money and opportunity if we still allowed a left turn on the Hill Road on northbound traffic on 272. I think you're gonna have, we'll call it a quality intersection that we're gonna create. And then a football field up the road, we use an old queuing lane and then what have you to beat 8 seconds. Will they do it? Yeah, they'll do it. But if you go from the square in Reamstown to the Reamstown light, if that's stacked because there is no through lane, no left lane, no right lane, there's a lane. And that lane's stacked, you'll see them peeling off for Fast and Keeler to go out and then pick up 272 out there. And you create extra turning movements, and I believe you create extra opportunity for bad things to happen. And if you're gonna build a real quality intersection here, then do that. Build it, be proud of it, and use it. But don't put another left turn 100 yards up the highway.
They haven't submitted any of their traffic studies, so a lot of the conversations we have have just been at this level of looking at a plan, just conceptually getting the alignment. They haven't shared with us their traffic counts or projections, any length of turn lanes or really anything in these what-if scenarios. So I think our original discussion was, let's assume all traffic was going to go to that lane. And this discussion just kind of came up with this concept of, again, peeling those right turns off, which made sense, but the left turns is a safety concern. So it's something we can look at. I think worst case, like you said, the intersection, worst case, it all traffic goes to it, and then if we, peel back from there, a couple layers or one layer, then at least we know the intersection is designed to handle 100% of traffic.
The last two pedestrian, if not three pedestrian crashes were people making a right turn from Hill Road on 272 South that were looking left and just kept on going. Now, the near misses for crashes between vehicles are the ones turning left in, causing problems for the ones turning left out. So I agree in that regard, that left turn in, if you can get rid of that, I think that would help on a lot of things. And the right turn out from Hill on the 272 South. Now, if there's development there, I'm sure that intersection, there'll be sidewalks and a better pedestrian crossing across what is now Hill Road. But up until that point, how many more crashes are going to happen in that regard? They don't need to be there.
Yes, sir.
Chad Weaver, I actually want to piggyback off what Craig said there a little bit, listening to this whole thing. I actually like Plan 3, but I'd actually like to see the existing Hill Roads, first 50 feet ripped out of there, and use that as an access link with a stop sign there at that bend for access to Park Place, and do away with that intersection. That intersection is a problem, period. If you give them any option, they're going to use it.
Yeah.
Direct everything, as you're saying, to that new intersection. You're going to spend the time and the money, make them use it. Take that first 50 feet out off of 272 and just make that a connector road. Just something to think about. That would clean that whole thing up, take all them parameters away. And a little bit of traffic that you get on that connector, the stop sign will handle. Most of them people will probably still use 272 to access Park Place and the old Zinn's Park and all that stuff. Something to think about, but that would force that picture a little further.
Yeah, we don't have the option to do it, you just look it out.
Thank you.
The concern I have with eliminating that north 5 left turn would be those properties right now. If you eliminate the left turn, those folks really don't have any way for coming from the south access their property. Because if you come around a new road, you can't turn right, so you're basically eliminating their access from the south at the intersection. So that was some of the reason leaving it open. And again, trying to direct people, people are gonna take the shortest distance, whatever is the easiest, rather than waiting at the light, you want to turn left, but you're gonna eliminate their access to the north of the intersection. They're gonna drive with cuts on 272 so they can access their property. On the southwest quadrant, those folks have no way, they'd have to go up, drive through the parking lot and work their way back to get to them. So that's, you just have to be careful, those properties, that you're gonna cut them off.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So from general overall direction, we're looking at siege and comfortability with number 3, and with some components of looking at maybe feathering in, coming off of fill, addressing that left turn, and pursuing, looking at that a little bit further, and then seeing, essentially where we are with that access coming down from existing Hill Road and what it may do to those other 2 properties. So essentially looking at option 3 with some potential, or concept 3 with some potential modifications as we get a little closer to the review.
Yeah, 3A will be the next plan, hopefully.
I think it goes without saying that all these options require some cooperative effort between various parties, including option 1.
Right.
Option 3 is not home free from impacts to adjacent.
And even if that didn't come through that area, we're back then to more of a swing to come around that. If it stayed all on Township and Gulfer Lane, right?
Move everything.
It's almost like the original plan, I think before you were Mike, with the 90 degrees. I mean, that was not a good design. I didn't think that was a good design, but again, it didn't impact any of those adjacent properties. You shift that further towards the Township side, and we're getting close to that driveway intersection and move further down the hill. So, you also look at the sight lines when you're timing too, with the best location.
I think from a concept design, you've got some great feedback.
One of the points Brent made, I emphasize that a public works doesn't always negatively impact the property. It frequently positive impacts of property. If you're taking an easement to put in public sewer in an area where septic systems are failing, the after value is always high.
Yes, I think that is some efforts and outreach is fully discussion.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mike, so moving on to our next item. 261 Main Road.
Yep, as I reported to, thank you, gentlemen. To report to the board, and we did see in the newspaper, I think there was an article or a story on the GAL. On October 14th, the township was aware, received a telephone call about demolition of a barn and structure at this location, just off of Weaver Road, adjacent to the Henry Schein facility. Zoning officer went and visited the site that day, posted a stop work order, contacted the property owner, advised them of the permit process. The structure and the barn were being removed without having a permit to do so, and they are in a historical district. The property owner representative acknowledged that process and subsequently submitted a demolition permit. The zoning officer did meet with the property owner at the site, as well as with representatives of the Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster County, to report the issue and determine if they had any jurisdiction or oversight on this action. That occurred on Tuesday, October 19th. A week later, the township did receive, through the zoning officer, an email and the findings from the Historic Preservation Trust and their executive committee meeting concerning this. They had asked for the township to consider and propose 4 means of mitigation to offset the loss of this historic property. What they had put in there, one was the township could impose an applicable fine for proceeding with demolition without the necessary approvals, which could be a fine of $500 plus court costs. Said the property owners should contract at their cost with an architectural salvage company to salvage as much of the historic fabric as possible: moldings, doors, beams, slate, masonry, etc. Property owners should contract at their cost with an architectural firm to document what's left of the house and to donate those files to the Cocalico Valley Historical Society and the Historic Preservation Trust, and also recommended making the property owner make a donation to the Historic Preservation Trust, Lancaster County, earmarked for preservation, education, or preserving the farmland into a conservation easement. So the right now, everything is kind of held up while the stop work order was in effect, and for the board to get a chance to discuss and consider what may need to happen. Like I said, we did receive a demolition permit for that, as well as this review. Tonight I'm asking the board, as we look to move forward with this action, to consider a motion to authorize the township zoning officer to issue the demolition permit and not file an enforcement notice against the property owner contingent upon the property owner meeting the following conditions by December 15th. And these conditions essentially are what I just highlighted, what were listed in the Historic Preservation Trust letter. 1, property owner shall at their cost contract with an architectural salvage company to salvage as much of the historic fabric as possible: moldings, doors, beams, slate, masonry, and provide to the township and the Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster County with a summary report of the materials salvaged and how and where these materials are being repurposed. Property owners shall contract at their cost with an architectural firm to document what is left of the house and to donate these files to the Cocalico Valley Historical Society and Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster County. And in lieu of an enforcement notice fine, the property owner shall make a $500 donation to the Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster County, earmarked for preservation, education, or preserving the farmland into a conservation easement. That's the motion that is being asked, or being asked for the board to consider. Again, it addresses our process. It addresses the comments of the Historical Preservation Trust and what they were looking to get in regard to mitigation, and also hopefully the win-win by taking those monies, which would have been just paid for a fine, and instead going into historic preservation, education, and farmland preservation. Any questions
I will make that motion, Mike. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Ken, any questions at all? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, Steve Brubaker, so that $500 donation, would that be specifically earmarked for Cocalico, or would that could be for Lancaster County?
That right now would go to Historic Preservation Trust, so there's not a limit unless they want to amend the motion to ask the trust use that in either East Cocalico Township or in the Cocalico region. But right now it would be at the discretion of the Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster County. And they are who we cite in our ordinance as sort of the controlling group, not the controlling group, but the commenting group that would review these type of things when a demolition structure is impacted in the township.
Thank you. Okay, so you have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries. Okay, Mike, ARPA funding.
Yeah, the township's proposed using a portion of the ARPA funding that we received to purchase 6 Dell Precision 3560 laptops from Custom Computer for staff members. Laptops will be used to provide township staff with flexibility to work remotely during any type of COVID outbreak. It really avoids issues with staff when they're working at home using their personal computers and possibly impacting our server or our security into our system. Laptops will be provided for the financial administrator, director of community development, human resource coordinator, roadmaster, recording secretary, and zoning officer. Also, one of our existing laptops then will be allocated, that's being used right now for the tax collector. I have a laptop here, so if I do, on those extreme occasions when I'm not here at the township building and I have it at home, I can take this home with me, works fine, there's no issues. So that would cover all staff in the event that we have something out of the ordinary happening, or as we all deal in our workplace now, when there's different components of possibly the COVID issue that we need to change the work remotely, we can do that and be effective while we do it. So the motion that's on for consideration for the board is to authorize the purchase of 6 laptop computers and 2 docking stations from customcomputer.com at a total cost of $9,884.55 to be paid for using funds from the American Rescue Plan Act.
And just to complete transparency for the public, this is my personal laptop, not the township's. I do not like paper. All right, do we have a motion? Chris, I'll make the motion.
All right, I'm looking at this going, yeah, I know what a gig is in a bit.
Come on, Greg.
They sell lithium battery. It's not lithium power, right?
The penny versus 50-cent piece.
It's a part for China that we've been waiting on for 9 months.
The docking stations say right here, they're on back order. That means there's somewhere either floating at sea or still under construction.
Most likely floating.
Motion.
I'll second.
And motion and second, any questions? Yes, sir.
Don Miller, with everyone working more from home, did the board actually think about making any procedures for the people working at home? Example, to protect the township, would you disable Alexa so nothing's picked up or shared, stuff like that? More secure. Yeah, you're getting a VPN connection into the township, but what other security measures do you have in place also?
That's a good point. We started doing a lot of those types of things. There's still a lot more that has to be done. We started doing that a lot when Alan was on the board and Jeff and myself. And what we learned very quickly was, I can say my running joke of I just wanted to get East Cocalico. Alan's smiling, he's heard this for years, into the 20th century. So when COVID hit and our employees had to work from home, there was a lot of work that went on behind the scenes in terms of exactly what you're describing in terms of making sure they had laptops, how were we going to do it, what were the procedures that were going on. So we did put a lot of those types of things in place, but we didn't cover everything.
No.
So,
Stuff to think about.
yeah, and it's a great point, absolutely great point, thank you.
Ask L&P, I'm not sure you can cover everything.
Hardly.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carries. Good, Mike.
Yeah,
Department reports.
Yeah, the one item that I did get, I put in my report to the board, I did get the actual final quote, which I left you guys a copy of. The township had money budgeted this year to replace the flooring in the, throughout the first floor and the bottom floor, police floor. I did have a chance to meet, we drew up some specs, met with 3 different companies, Martin's Flooring, D&S Flooring, and Floorcraft New Holland, to get 3 estimates for this work. The final one did come in today, and the lowest estimate that we received to do this repair and renovation work is Martin's Flooring at $28,969.97. And the next one, D&S Flooring, was $32,500, so they were relatively close, and Floorcraft was $44,282. It includes replacing carpeting in the main office, the manager's office, the authority, the director, community development director / tax office right now, this room in here, zoning, and the small meeting room and the financial administrator's office, and then cleaning the grout and the tile outside there and coloring some of that grout, and doing the kitchen, putting some vinyl planking in the kitchen area. The carpeting in here is going to be the carpet squares that we put down commercial grade. We go down to the police department, same thing, the grout coming in, and then there's a couple offices in there that we're doing some work. There was some carpet tile that was put down before, so that would be clean as part of this. And the price does include moving furniture as well. So we have to get to a lot of the, whenever you have any type of facility like this, there's so much paper everywhere. So we gotta get sort of that a little bit under control and moved out before this happens, and then have them come in and move it. Hopefully we can do it over a weekend or late evenings one night, but either way, we can work around that internally so that it doesn't impact operations and gets this work done. Some of this carpet, I don't know how long this carpet's been in for, but it's been in for a long time, and it's budgeted, so the goal is to have it done before the end of 2021, but I'm hoping that our carpet squares will not be sitting on some float somewhere out in the city. So that is still the goal, but in order to get that moving, this kind of, it was included on the meeting agenda tonight with the anticipation and the hope that I would get that third quote. I did get that in, so if the board is willing to do that, we could move to contract with Martin's Flooring to do this work. Again, the 2021 budget had $45,000 budgeted for building repairs and maintenance, with the bulk of that being for the carpeting replacement. I think the number was $40,000 that was originally identified. We have left in that line item $31,390.64. So still going with the $28,000, we're still $3,000 under. Here we are in the end, beginning of November. So if unless you have any questions, or if you want to move ahead with this, we can have a motion to contract with Martin's Flooring Inc. to replace the flooring in East Cocalico Township municipal building at a cost of $28,969.97, as per the estimate date is September 27, 2021.
What do the squares look like?
The commercial grade squares. So once they're down, it looks like a carpet.
Yeah, the advantage of the square is if you spill something or you rip it, you can just pop that part out and put a new one in, as opposed to having, if you look at certain parts of the carpet, you can see there's a spill, and now you just try to put a piece of furniture.
Does it have a checkerboard design, or is it?
I am going to defer the selection of color and quality to everybody else who knows better, because I couldn't match it if I wanted to. I think it works really well. Yeah, the police do have it, and they, how long was that in for?
A while.
And even as all three companies that went through, none of them had indicated that this will be, that down there, that we should replace it, they all indicated clean it.
So it's one solid color.
It can be, or it can be better, whatever you want.
Well, the county did 150 North Queen, all of that is square.
To answer your question directly, Jeff, the commercial squares were really designed for if there was damage in a small area, you're not ripping out the whole room, you're just replacing 18-inch squares. That's the reason it's also. And it is much, much, much more resilient than normal.
Better wear. What color were they?
Like I said, I will defer to anybody else. I'm an easy man to please, and it doesn't really matter, so. Well, obviously, we want it to be something that we can be proud of, right? That people come into the building and say, boy, good work must be done here, so we just do it.
So what color were they?
Yes.
We will give Mr. Mitchell the action item of picking the color. No, you're
Really, what that responsibility?
He just agreed, Craig, I think he just agreed, did he not?
I'll play Sergeant Schultz. I know not to.
All right, I will make that motion, because this is something we should have done months and months and months and months and months ago.
It's worn out, yes.
Yes, absolutely, I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
In a second, any questions? Okay, motion in a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carries.
Right.
And please add to the meeting minutes that Mr. Mitchell will be selecting the color.
Forceville light, turn right to it, it's 5.0.
We have some folks here, actually.
Oh, there you go.
And just one last thing, for the public, the township, the draft budget for 2022 will be available starting tomorrow. It's advertised in the paper, it'll be on the website. And right now, going through 2 budget meetings, we do not have any tax increase or any increase in either of the streetlight fund. So take a look at the budget, and I guess there'll probably be some opportunities for questions and discussions to move forward. The goal is to have it on to be approved and adopted at the December 2nd. So,
The goal is to have it ready for public review. The first goal was to see no tax increase. That was mission 1. And we're in good shape. Thank you.
Okay. So, pleased to say, Director of Community Development is next on the agenda. Welcome.
Thank you. Tonight, I don't have anything to say except happy to be here. It's been a fast 4 days. And I'm almost to the point where I'm not making very much the meeting and that at the end of the hall here. And to office I want to go to, which is embarrassing. So, but in the future, I'm sure I'll have
Great. Mr. Mitchell will be picking the color of the floor, and he'll get that to you within a week.
Yes, okay.
I like mud.
Chief, Police.
I only have 2 things, keep it short and sweet. The next wave of traffic enforcement details or aggressive driving details have started. We've done 2 so far with others to follow. They'll be completed by mid-December. And with that, everybody should drive under the speed limit and there won't be any issues. So I hope everyone listens. And obviously, you can probably tell that it's November. I forgot to mention at the last October meeting, but we are participating in Beards for Brothers to raise money for cancer or to give to first responders who may be in need. The goal is to raise $60,000. So for the month of November, we waive the dress code standards and allow the officers to grow a beard. So I mean, look different by the end of the month. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
Any reports from trick or treat the other day?
Oh, yeah, don't forget about that, I apologize, I think we handed out 5.5 bags of candy, 6 bags of candy, somewhere in there, in East and Denver, and 500 of the red and blue blinky lights that the kids love and the parents really love. Just makes the kids more visible at night, and it was I would call it a success. I was here, Sergeant Projan, Sergeant Soul was working, and Officer McKay was working at night, so the 4 of us divvied up the township and borough, and went out. And there was a lot of people out, which was good to see.
And I know along that line, I did get a call today from the manager of West Cocalico, and they were considering and may bring up at the next regional meeting a discussion if the municipalities of the Cocalico region want to set trick or treat night as October 31st with a rain date of November 1st. Whenever we get an event, we had to reschedule this year because of the weather, and those calls probably start Tuesday, depending, it's 2 days before, and then that day they ramp up, and everybody gets the calls, and we've always were kind of scurrying to get this done, to try and do it as soon as we can to make sure. So there's been some discussion about the possibility of moving away from what we've always done in the past through the county, and just setting that day and then a rain day the next day, so people know right off the bat if it's bad weather and it's canceled, they know it's going to be the next night. So that'll come up at the regional meetings, just something to think about for next few months.
It's somewhat amazing to hear the stress in the phone calls or the anger in the phone calls that we get in reference to trick or treating. So that would be phenomenal.
Everything was smooth, no incidents?
No incidents, everything was great.
MS4 stormwater, Ken.
Just a quick report on that. The long-awaited FS4, the agricultural project to gain pollution reduction credit, is ready to launch. The materials are all ready, and we just want to synchronize so that the advertisement shows up in the newspaper on the same day that the mailed out packets that we're sending to all the farmers in the urban area will show up about the same time, because it's a first come, first serve, so we have to synchronize all of that to make it fair. Yes, that's the main thing at this point.
And that synchronization will occur next week. That's what we're at right now.
Yes.
Wednesday's day.
Thank you. Any questions for MS4? Okay. Treasurer's report, list of bills.
Okay, list of bills, total general fund tonight of $176,574.97. Any questions on the bills as presented? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, none, motion carries.
And we have a payroll from October 2nd to November 4th of $90,635.30. Any questions there? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Steve, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carries.
And that is the report as presented.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I don't think we have any old business. New business. Never mentioned the floor, so.
We're moving on from that. Yeah, new business. We, through our budget talks, we were talking about ARPA funding, different uses for that. There was talk of some going to the authority. One thing that we failed to discuss a little bit was, our own needs with stormwater and such. we were here for an interview session with solicitors one night through a horrible storm outside, and you couldn't leave here and turn left. The road was flooded, and there was many vehicles we saw turn around and have to go the other way. I look at that as a little bit of an issue. We have a police department right here, and in that kind of situation, nobody can leave here and turn left. If there were a call up the other way, it would have to go around, and who knows how long that would take. Anyway, getting to the long and the short of it, I'm wondering if we should be looking at the stormwater problem right out here on Hill Road, a pipe replacement project there or something that will take that flooding off the road. I guess, Mike, that a stormwater improvement like that would be ARPA eligible, or?
Yeah, it's addressing stormwater management, stormwater impacts, and if we're cutting the road to put an inlet or a culvert in, a new pipe, whatever, we can actually even include a repaving of that process that we have here. So that's definitely.
No, I'm not proposing that we do it, I'm proposing we talk about it. How many situations are there like that in the township, chief, when you talk about flooding? Your guys have barricades in the car and they're looking to shut down a road if it comes up. There's, you go back on White Oak, there's a constant flooding situation there, and perhaps there's other spots in the township.
There's some out in Naperville, but White Oak and Hill Road are probably worse. I will say that, when I was working patrol during Hurricane Lee, at one point, we were all out, because that's what you should do, get out outside the station, and I was on an island in Denver Borough. So there was no access out or in of Denver Borough for a certain amount of time. So we were cognizant of that. I'm not saying we wouldn't be at station, something's going on right out here. I guess which road is most important, that kind of thing comes into mind to me. We're aware of it, we know about it, so we don't try to not get out on the street when something's going on. I'm not saying we're never here when there's flooding like that.
It also becomes an emergency services situation.
Absolutely.
If you need an ambulance in or out, can't get through.
And a fix is good because up in the middle of Hill Road, across from 200 Hill Road, that drain used to always get clogged from the stuff from the field and the debris. And then you had everybody going out into the middle to get around. That seems to, once the farmer has adjusted some things and they put a new grade in there, it seems to have helped. But that was always something. But I mean, yeah, it's a concern. I just don't know, and I'm not an engineer by any means, but all that water coming off of that hill, coming across that road, what's the solution? Because I've seen that, that would have to be a pretty big pipe, I guess, underneath there at one point. So will it fix it is my only question, but we're aware that it occurs, so we don't put anybody in danger by just sitting here and watching this. And I know you didn't mean it that way.
Any kind of emergency services, it's an issue.
Sure.
So, and the assumption is you're not gonna take a pipe out and replace it and fix it. It would have to be multi-pipes, or an engineer would have to give a response.
It's just amazing the amount of water that comes through there.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes, so.
That has been an issue for years and was not addressed. I'm confident that it could be addressed because there was a time when it would flood at the Reevestown Fair Hall all the way up into the square, or beyond the square, right, Alan?
Yep.
And they put piping in there that a family of four could live in. It was huge. It was, right?
You're correct.
It was huge, and it worked. So.
Yeah, even during the most recent storm, and like in different parts of the township were closed, and I was riding around, I thought, I'm not gonna try and go up here, because I figured that was gonna be flooded, and there was not anything on the road, this went through, so that was, so there are things, but this is what this money is really, could be used for, is these type of improvements where you can do an infrastructure type of, one-time type thing, not a program, that we're building and paying, for years and years, but to use it in that time and make these improvements and save, not use our own money to do it, that's great.
No, I would just suggest maybe just a quick analysis by the engineer first to see what we're looking at here. Maybe it's something that's way out of reach, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this, the 561 we had, and I'm looking at the budget now, the 561 we had in the budget for 22, for our 561,000. Well, most of that was already allocated.
Yeah, it was 500,000.
Yeah, we've got 561, and we'll get the other 561 next June.
Okay, so you're referring to for next year?
Either way,
Because okay.
Well, is there an official request from the authority for that one?
No, they just had provided when the ARPA money was first being announced, and kind of provided a list of projects that they're working on. And so that was gathered as we were trying to gather information for all different possibilities. So yeah, we have 561,000 from this year, and I think right now the only thing I'm aware of that we spent is just what we approved tonight with the laptops. We'll get another 561,000 roughly in June of 2022, which will be our total allocation.
That's what I have here then. Yes, sir.
Alan Fry, it wouldn't cost that much money to have an engineer study the situation and get back.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought.
I thought that's what your thought was.
Yeah, just to see what we're looking at.
Yeah. Because it does flood out here a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Why not wait till you're gonna be putting the new road in and then just encompass the whole thing?
I think it takes a long time and a lot of planning to get to that point where you actually put the shovel in the dirt. So the conversation first has to start.
But if it's been
then
that,
find the funding.
if it's been that bad for all this time,
Yeah.
what more time, what's it gonna matter at this point?
On that.
And it'd be more fiscally responsible to just incorporate it when you're doing the road.
I think, man, on your point, in the last 2 years, we just put how many hundreds of residents right here that weren't here 2-3 years ago with the Heatherwood development getting done. So that's why I think now it should go a little faster than, instead of, so we don't have to.
I hear you, and I don't disagree with you, but neither can I sit up here and presuppose that request for zoning change will go through. I can't presuppose that project will go through, because we all know that many times projects, good potential projects, just peter out for whatever reason. And I do think this is important enough. It bothers me that right here in front of our township building, where we go out and talk to others about stormwater management, that we can't manage the water outside our front door. Leaks.
Well, I guess to that point too, there was a water rescue in one of those storms, not here, but back at
Why do Road at least almost once a year we have to go, it's water rescue, Road?
Because the water's coming over the road.
Yes, sir.
Brian Weiss. Ken, is that something that we could piggyback on with MS4 with that?
I'd have to look into it. I don't think there's MS4 sediment reduction credit for fixing a road crossing over a stream. I don't know that really does a lot in terms of what they're looking for in pollution reduction. I mean, certainly.
If you could do a buffer, incorporate that with a buffer there or something too.
Yeah, well, we put a buffer in downstream from Hill Road where we own the property. That's been planted already. As far as upstream, we're looking at, there is a possibility if the farm on the other side of the road or diagonally across, the owner of that is interested in participating in the FS4 program, so that'll help in terms of water quality. It's not going to change water volume coming off his land, but
Because use that as your selling point there with that.
yeah. The other thing is there's a time limit on spending the ARPA funds. There's a date by which they have to be spent or you hand it back.
That's exactly what I was looking for, was the date. So to answer your question from earlier, man, it's not only what Craig said, it's combined with the ARPA fund, it does have limits on it. So,
I just think that you guys were at a point you were picking up plans 1, 2, or 3.
No, right.
We were moving along with it, just incorporated, so.
I just looked it up to go with, on White Oak Road, since 2018, we had 5 water rescues on right there, since 2018, so, yeah.
So I think it makes sense, so just have him do a preliminary.
Sure.
Preliminary evaluation.
That's all I'm talking about. Just give us some insight if there's anything doable there that's reasonable, or we've got to build a bridge to fix it.
Mike, you got that one?
Yep.
Bay Bridge.
That would be.
Look cool. Also, Don, Tuesday, we were talking about the backside of Hill Road. There's been multiple accidents there where vehicles have went off the road into a pole into the neighbor's front lawn. There had been a little rain Tuesday morning, and myself going down there at the speed limit, I got a little loose. There seems to be a slickness to the road down there, and with the curves that are there, it seems like it could be a situation where there could be some problems, and it's been that way in the past. I talked to the roadmaster a little bit about possible solutions. He was going to, next time he talked to the road engineer from Purdue, see what kind of feedback he was going to give. He said, maybe a possible solution would be a chip with a bigger stone that would give some more traction going down there. That would probably be a next year solution. But we'll keep that on the radar and see if we can make that situation a little better.
The telephone pole keeps the cars from going in the yard. When the kids go out, they actually park their cars so the kids can be out in the yard to play.
Yeah.
So, and Tuesday night, on a Tuesday night, somebody took a pole off the following Tuesday, and it wouldn't have been that because that was a new pole, still kind of soft. They would have lost another pole the following Tuesday.
There's just something in that little stretch of road that it's just really slippery.
On the lower side of the Hill Road, 700 block. It actually, we have more calls there for accidents than we do in the rest of our run area.
And the roadmaster did send me an email that he did speak with Mike Dowse from Purdue to get information on that situation that you guys had spoken about. And he had recommended doing what you said, a microsurface overlay in the location, which makes a gritty textured roadway to help reduce some of the sliding and other problems. He said this being a safety issue, maybe see if it could be done in 2021. Got 2 names of 2 companies, and both of them said that they're done doing that for this year, and that they wouldn't be out again for next year. The other one was a temporary Band-Aid fix that could be done, a problem area, which would be like a micro mill of that area. It mills a section of roadway, it creates a diamond texture compared to a straight line groove mill. Said that though this is a temporary solution to fix the problem because generally it starts to wear the asphalt down much quicker. So the more permanent type of repair would be the microsurface, which might be something we have to look at as we get into the spring of next year.
You're going to mill, be careful with motorcycles.
Yeah.
Because that would be really interesting going down there.
That probably the solution is to be a little patient there and address it next time.
I just know the residents there are getting a little, with the kids there and stuff, they get a little, and I think they're tired of seeing us come visit them once.
I agree with you. I've seen it, experienced it. So we'll keep that on the radar.
Okay. Right, public comments, non-agenda items. Yes, sir.
Brian Weiss, quick question for Mike. Go ahead, keep right.
Go ahead.
Eagle disposal, how have you been, any complaints, how's that been going?
I haven't received any complaints.
Okay, because I mean, I put mine out religiously, I put it out last night for today, and I mean, my phone went off today, they have a phone tree or whatever, saying they're gonna double up next week. This was the recycling week that they put out.
Right.
Mine was got, so I mean.
Yeah, it's been very quiet.
Okay.
And I didn't know, as I mentioned the last time I think we talked about it, whether that was just the market people just saying, I'm moving on to someone else, or now with this, they just planned accordingly. So, yeah, haven't been anything.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean,
let me add.
Okay.
Yesterday morning on Martin Drive was an Eagle disposal truck and broke down, leaking. The mechanic was there to fix it. They did put down sufficient oil dry and swept it up. They cleaned up their mess. It wasn't much of a leak, but it looked as though it disabled the truck, so.
Things like that should be documented, because those go into the MS4 report we do every year.
Come on out.
Well, I mean, it's cleaned up now, the truck's not there and the leak's been cleaned up. But since you have that, write up a paragraph for me, it doesn't need to be anything fancy, just.
I'm a witness, and the color of the oil was kind of blackish.
That worked.
Okay.
So you're leaning toward black carbon?
Brian, are you volunteering to help him pick the color?
Absolutely.
Sounds great. Mike, you got that?
Black is beautiful.
Any other questions? Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, Steve Brubaker. Not sure if this would be the board to ask this question to, or if it would be West Cocalico. My question pertains to the post office in Stevens on Line Road. But since we share the road with West and East, I'm not sure who to ask the question. That is a very dangerous area. You have the parking spaces there that are right on the road. I've witnessed many near misses, accidents of customers trying to pull out on the Line Road. Now you have the townhomes that are developed there right beside the post office, so you're increasing traffic. You have newer homes further on down Line Road, helping to increase traffic. You're going to have Wabash Landing opening up on Stevens Road. So just today, there were 2 box trucks that had the whole road backed up. I go by there every day from work, and there were 2 trucks that had their flashes on, and the road was jammed.
Steve, yeah, I think Craig can answer that well.
Well, that is West Cocalico side.
The property is on, is on West, okay.
And my father was the Stevens RD1 mailman for 25 years. And it wasn't fun backing out back then. And I'm sure it didn't get any better. But I don't know that we have the wherewithal, if you will, to tell West Cocalico where and how to.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, no.
So I would start there.
Okay.
Other than Reevestown, I mean, Denver got a new post office. Reevestown did, Stevens hasn't, and Stevens goes the whole way from Monterey Feed Mill to Little Doozy.
They don't deliver mail anymore, it's all delivered by Denver.
Yeah.
Once they figure out how to get rid of the post office boxes, that place will be closed.
Yeah,
That's what they're working on.
longevity is probably not very good.
But it won't be demolished, because that's a historic building.
Not without permission.
Not
Unlike the junkyard, salvage yard that was next to it.
Also, that's a state road, and so PennDOT might have something to say about how the access is going there.
Steve,
Might
does
be
that
worth
help you-
contacting
does that help
PennDOT.
you in terms of going the right direction?
So, yes, it does, thank you. So, I'll address that with West at their board of supervisors meeting. I kind of figured that, but again, because we share the road, I wasn't sure, so, but thank you.
But we share a state road.
Share state road.
It's half theirs and half ours, but none of it's yours.
Right.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Monica Craig Drive. I just wanted to congratulate Lando on our newly elected supervisor. Publicly congratulate him.
See you in January.
2022.
Prepare to read a lot.
You should.
Okay, any other questions? Great. So, the next Board of Supervisors meeting will be held on Thursday, November 18th, here in person and of course via Zoom. I'm sorry, not here, correction. It will be held at the Williamstown Fire Company. Again, I apologize. So the Thursday, November 18th meeting at 7 o'clock will be held at the Williamstown Fire Company in Williamstown. Okay? So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none, motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Sounds good.
Probably.